Hello, I'm Kathy Morris, pastor of the Dixon United Methodist Church, and welcome to our daily devotion for April 8th. Today we will be hearing the story of Judas as he leaves Jesus to betray him. Our reading comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verses 21 through 32. In this passage, we are reminded that there are two realms at work. There is the spiritual realm and the cosmic battle that Jesus is waging against Satan. John tells us that Satan entered into Judas and he immediately leaves the dinner. John says it was night. This is not a matter of the time of day. It is saying that Judas has entered into darkness. As he left Jesus, he was leaving the light. The other realm is the human realm. This is the realm that captures our attention. We can only imagine the pain that Jesus felt being betrayed to death by his friend. So let us hear this passage together. After saying this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and declared, "Very truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So while he was reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "Do quickly what you are going to do." Now no one at the table knew why he had said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out. And it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once." This reading gives us pause to consider the pain of betrayal, the wound of broken trust. The reading also gives us a glimpse of the kind of relationship that Jesus invites us to experience. In verse 23, we hear these words, "One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him." There is some thought that this is not a reference to a specific disciple. Rather, it is a description of the ideal disciple. The ideal disciple stays close to Jesus. We are all of us called to stay close to Jesus. When we stay close to Jesus, we live in the light and we experience fullness of life. When we depart from Jesus, we enter into darkness and death. There are many ways in which we depart from Jesus. There are many ways in which we go our own way, and often we fail to realize the wound that we are inflicting. We fail to realize the many betrayals of Christ. Today is a day for us to examine our own hearts and to confess the failures of our faith. Thomas Wilson lived in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. He wrote several devotional books. This is one of his prayers. Forgive me my sins, O Lord, the sins of my present and the sins of my past, the sins of my soul and the sins of my body, the sins which I have done to please myself and the sins which I have done to please others. Forgive me my casual sins and my deliberate sins, and those which I have labored so to hide, that I have hidden them even from myself. Forgive me, O Lord. Forgive all my sins, for Jesus' sake. In your prayer time, read and reread this prayer. Then light a candle, and as you light the candle, may that be a sign of your desire to live in the light of Christ.